Did you see that video that went viral about Russian forces marching into Pokrovsk? It was released on the 10th of November. We see buggies, motorcycles, more motorcycles, a destroyed car, a bukhanka van. It literally gives off Mad Max vibes. Mad Max vodka! We can observe a never-ending stream of Russian troops pushing into the city. Loki looks like these videos from insurgents in Africa. Same exact thing. Just the landscape is different. That's why some people use this video to mock the Russian army, while others rationalize it by saying that's the reality of modern warfare. So this video will analyze all this and we'll go through what happened in detail. First of all, this video was geolocated right here southeast of Pokrovsk. This entire Russian convoy pushed northwards along the E50 road. That was the point of view of the cameraman, meaning the convoy then continued in this direction towards the center of Pokrovsk. It makes sense because around the same time, maybe a day or two before, Ukrainian drone operators of the 68th Yega Brigade targeted a number of Russian motorcycles. I counted 6 strikes on motorcycles, but not on enemy troops. The Ukrainians only targeted the bikes. That means an entire squad of Russian troops stopped there, left the motorcycles behind and ran into the surrounding buildings. Essentially, like modern-day dragoons. We can see that the Russian soldiers did so in a hurry, because they didn't bother camouflaging their motorbikes at all. They just left them in plain sight. Now, turns out, these drone strikes were geolocated 600 meters further down that same road. We cross-referenced the info, and we can confirm that there was indeed a large influx of motorized troops towards the city center of Pokrovsk. Additionally, 1,000 meters to the northeast, in the neighborhood right next to where that first video was recorded, there is a small village called Hnativka, and that's where, on the 10th of November, where Russian forces raised their colors. It could also have been the day before or even 2 days before, but we can see that all these events happened around the same time. So, in summary, the main column advanced along this axis, while 1 or 2 days before, drone strikes happened in this sector along the same road, while a Russian flag raise could be reported a bit to the north. So that's the context in which the Mad Max video happened. Now let's analyze the video from the beginning. What is the first thing we notice? Apart from the motorcycles, of course, what's the first thing we can observe? Fog. A very dense fog. We don't see anything. From what I read, the video was recorded early in the morning. This is an extremely important detail, because the fog provides natural camouflage for this entire column of Russian forces. Oh yeah, that's not all, because on the 6th of November, a Ukrainian drone recorded Russian troops dismantling Ukrainian fortifications. We see that the weather is also somewhat foggy, and we see that Russian group is removing some sort of barricade and removing these dragon teeth. And they did so unopposed. Ukrainian drone operators were powerless. There was an interesting comment below that video. It said, unfortunately, the bad weather is currently playing into the hands of the occupier. So it's from the Ukrainian perspective, and you see weather that restricts visibility like fog, but also heavy rain, blizzards, essentially make drones unusable. They're essentially blinded, and too many drones would be lost just because of the bad weather. Then the post said, previously we only saw Russian troops infiltrating Pokrovsk on foot. At most, there were these occasional attempts to break through on motorcycles. Ah, motorcycles! Just like in the video from the intro. This also confirms the video of the drone strikes I showed you earlier. The author of the post continued, today through the fog, we noticed the first Russian military pickup truck in the city. They leisurely scattered barricades and drove through the streets of Pokrovsk. So we clearly see how the Russian army is taking advantage of the weather. It seems that after General Frost, the Russians are benefiting from General Fog. So we know that there was a dense fog that covered the city of Pokrovsk between the 6th and the 10th of November, which allowed Russian forces to accumulate inside the urban area. And this explains this other video I stumbled upon. We see a Russian soldier riding a motorbike, and once again this dense fog. He disembarks and then starts clearing the road. Seems like some sort of ammunition. Perhaps he's also looking for some mines. Sometime after, armored vehicles drive by. Then we see a lone Russian soldier, I don't know in what context, but then they offered to give him a lift into the city, I suppose. This leads us to the main video I showed you in the introduction. The Mad Max convoy pushing into Pokrovsk. We see one soldier here, a buggy, and what seems to be 5 soldiers aboard motorcycles in the distance. And after that, it's the fog. We don't see anything beyond that. The camera turns, and we can spot the shadow of another vehicle and a soldier standing right next to it. This is the road going towards Hnativka, the small village where the Russians just raised their flag. The camera turns back to the main road, and we can observe another 3 Russians riding their bikes. But pay attention, they're fully loaded up with supplies. That's another thing I remember from the insurgents in Africa. Motorbikes are a multi-purpose tool. They can be used to quickly advance towards enemy positions, pick up infantrymen, like in that last video we just saw, or even transport supplies. Of course, their carrying capacity is limited, but there's a lot of motorbikes in motion, and as you know, quantity is a quality. Then we can observe another motorcycle and a soldier from the beginning of the video. To me, he looks a bit Asian, maybe a Buryat. Then comes this car, no doors. Looks like a shipwreck and filled to the brim with troops and supplies. It's followed by 2 other motorbikes. They all have a bunch of supplies to the rear. And according to me, the red here could be a jerry can. But I don't know what's this thing that sticks out. Let me know in the comment section if you know. A couple meters behind, we can see this UAZ 452 Bukhanka, or rather the pickup version of it. It's a Soviet-era vehicle converted into a light cargo truck. We can see a soldier sitting at the back, and we can imagine more supplies or ammo being transported. The camera then turns and we see yet another soldier. But he's not part of the convoy, he's just standing there. So we can see that there's an entire rifle team protecting and securing this intersection. And it seems that the job of these men is also to guide this entire convoy towards the right direction. Then in the video we see the last bit of the Bukhanka with another soldier sitting at the rear of the vehicle. And to the left there is another 2 motorcyclists followed by some sort of jeep. Now, this is strange. We see a drone just chilling in the middle of the road. I have no idea what it's doing there. At last we see another car piercing through the dense fog, and this one is equipped with metal cages. And that's about it. One Russian war reporter called War Gonzo said he wouldn't be surprised to see at the end of the convoy a horse pulling a cart filled with electronic warfare equipment, to which he said, "Ruski idut, Ruski prishli." The Russians are coming, the Russians have arrived. In a way of saying that no matter the mode of transportation, the Russian army keeps advancing. Okay, so I went back to the Mad Max video, and in summary, I could visually confirm 27 Russian soldiers as part of this convoy, without counting everybody standing left and right. 27 Russian soldiers visually confirmed. That means in this 30-second video alone, an entire platoon worth of troops was deployed into Pokrovsk. Just like that. This motorized push into the city was unopposed, and it clearly seemed very organized, with this checkpoint securing the intersection and guiding everyone in the right direction. The question is, how many more convoys drove into the city that day while benefiting from the cover of the fog? 5, 10, who knows? Like I always tell you, is what we don't see that is very important. Let's say 10 convoys for convenience. If it's 10 convoys that made it into Pokrovsk, then we could be looking at almost 300 soldiers, an entire battalion, with all their supplies and ammunition. In the current state of the Ukraine war, this is huge. As you know, there are fewer and fewer people actually on the front lines. For example, a street or tree line might only be guarded by 2 riflemen. So imagine the area you can cover with an entire platoon. Now, as for the vehicles they used, I counted 13 vehicles, 2 cars, 1 buggy, 1 jeep, and a Bukhanka minivan. So 18 vehicles in total as part of this column, with the majority of motorbikes. For sure, it's not fancy at all. It looks like a convoy of beggars, and pretty much resembles what we could see in a Mad Max movie. No one can deny that. But there's also a very rational reason behind this. Drones. They cause enormous attrition on Russian armored vehicles, to the point where sometimes the Russian command prefers not to use them. BMPs, BTRs, MTLBs can get spotted fairly quickly, and right after they get swarmed and immobilized by FPV drones. And because of these same drones, you can't even retrieve all the lost vehicles. So one solution was using motorcycles, which allow much greater flexibility. They can drive faster, they're much harder to detect, and if they're detected, they can quickly disperse, thus making the chase for the drones much harder. As for the buggies or other Soviet-era vehicles, they're expandable. Unlike armored vehicles, if one of them gets destroyed, they can quickly replace it. And as for these vehicles, many of them don't even have doors. For sure, it looks very ratchet, but if a drone comes, it allows everyone to jump out very quickly. And I'm pretty sure it's the same thing for American, even Israeli light mobility vehicles. They don't have doors. However, in the end, from what I read from Russian analysts, even the strategy of using cheap vehicles is becoming less and less effective with this proliferation of drones on the modern battlefield. It's no coincidence that such a convoy is driving through the morning fog to avoid detection. Doing so a couple hours later would be
madness.
Overall, one of the main tactical dilemmas right now in the Ukraine war is how to bring reinforcements and supplies to the front line. It goes without saying how important UAVs and other robotic means will be for logistics. That's all I have for you today. See you in the next one.